Hello, my friends. Big Mark back with you. Secrets of the Red Doors. I told you to be back. It's great to be back in the studio. I got my friend Chris taking care of everything for me, and I got some great stories for you. I left you with a little lead in last week about some issues were bothering me about guys, dishonorable guys want to tell stories to lift themselves up. I'm a nobody. I want to remain a nobody. These are stories about people I respected and true stories you're going to hear from the Bergen in the heyday of the 80s and 90s. There was a lot of characters that went there, but John was a character of himself. I got a couple pictures to show you John's personality that I want to see that show you the kind of person he was. He was funny. He could be serious. He could be deadly, but he could be funny at the same time. It was just, and John had a gift. People attracted to him from everywhere. It's hard for people to really realize this guy's magnetism. So we had guys from all over, and a lot of them were around. There was, listen, guys would come from different crews, but John had some characters. I could tell you a story, true story one time. It was right before the holidays, and John decides Arnold and Funzy come by from Jersey. Great friends. I'll talk more about them later on. Great guys. I respected them. Real men, but they were great guys. Arnold was great. Invited me by his house. His lovely wife Marie made lasagna. We watched the football games. These are good guys. Real tough guys. They were from Harlem. So one day, John decides it's a weekend before the holidays. He wants to have a continental game, but we happen to be that late afternoon in Richie's club. They were painting the Bergen, the interior Bergen. So I decided, I said, Mark, get the ball, you keep score, cut the game. So it's John, Angelo, Willie Boy, Arnold, and Funzy, and they're playing. And guys are celebrating inside for holiday, having drinks, toasting, and they're playing Continental. So I'm sitting there keeping score. All of a sudden, Funzy, Alphonse, is facing Arnold and says, hey, Bo, turn around. We all turn around, and it was a nut job that came around. They used to call him JJ. He's not around anymore, but a loose cannon. JJ's drunk, and JJ took his dick out of his pants and was waving it in the club, but right behind Arnold. Now, totally wrong guy. Arnold got up, turned around, saw it, leaped out of his chair, and knocked him flying over a chair. You got to see Johnny's face. So embarrassment. This was his friend. I mean, they really, really adored each other. Arnold, wait, don't do nothing. This guy's around me. I'll take care of him. Push Arnold away, and Johnny hit him with a chair, went to work on him, chased him out of the club. Now, as a kid, they know it's a kid. He chased him. Don't embarrass me. He was drunk, acting like an idiot. But that was Arnold. I mean, he saw it, not even a speck. You don't do that to guys like this. But we ended up, so that night, broke up the game, cut the game. Arnold came to me. What a great guy. He says, I'm sorry the game broke up. That asshole got me all aggravated. Slips me $500. It's here for the holidays, pal. I love you. You know you're a good kid. That's some guys. I didn't judge them for what they did. I only judged them for who they were. They were men, and respected men. That was one of the stories. That was a Bergen story. A lot of guys don't know that. They don't remember stories like that. I remember them. I remember stories with John. Like, do I have pictures? I want to show. I took a couple of pictures I clipped. I want to show pictures of John's personality. So one day, put them up, please. I have a picture. I want to show you two pictures there. Everybody's seen these pictures before. There's one, and there's another one. John grabbing Tony Lee's nose in a courthouse. With this, you see the court officer smiling, laughing at John. This is during a trial, facing prison. That's John's personality. There's another one. I got a picture of John. Everybody sees John playing stickball with the kids in the neighborhood. He's dressed in slacks, shoes, but he's having fun. That's John's personality. An hour later, John will have a sit down and try to beat a guy for a sit down. But after doing that, was John's personality. So one day, I'm by the club. Joe Messina pulls up. What are you doing? We're hanging out. Joe's got sandwiches. We're eating sandwiches. Joey had a blue Eldorado, and he says, what are you doing? He said, you want to go to track? Johnny looks at me, you want to go to Racetrack? He said, yeah, let's go to Racetrack. It was like a Wednesday, not a Wednesday night, Tuesday night, a Monday night. So let's go. Mark, come on. You drive us. We're going to Roosevelt Raceway. Roosevelt Raceway was out in Long Island, right by the Meadowbrook. not there anymore. I think they put condos there, but whatever. And we used to go there. We're going to the track. We walk in, betting. I'm putting bets in for Joe and Johnny. We get a couple of drinks. We sit at the counter. They're talking. We're laughing. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, walking by with a sport jacket is Mickey Boy Paradiso. Now, another guy, very close to John. True story. John in his office, years later, when he became boss, had his desk. He had pictures on his desk of his family. You know, he had his son Frankie, who unfortunately got killed, a young boy. He's a shame. He had a picture of Neil Delacroix, you know, his mentor on it. And he had a picture of Mickey Boy on it. That was his man. They were very close. You know, Mickey Boy didn't take no shit from John either. That's why I think John liked him. But the best part about this is John hears that Mickey Boy's in jail, and he gets caught on tape making business deals with his relatives in Pleasant Avenue in Harlem, and the feds pinch him. Johnny just became boss. He had plans for Mickey. He gets so upset. All of a sudden, what does he do? He takes Mickey Boy's picture and he slams it down on top of the table to hide his face, like he's so mad. That was Mickey Boy, and that was his relationship they had. You know, Mickey Boy, great guy. We take no shit from John either, but they had a great relationship. We're in a racetrack. Years earlier, it's Mickey, what are you doing here? He said, I'm betting horses. Mickey was a stone-cold, degenerate horse player, like John, like the rest of them. What are you doing here? He said, don't you got to turn yourself in tomorrow? He had like a 7-year bid or something with the feds. He says, yeah. But ain't they having like a going-away party? Your family said, screw that. You know, my going-away party's a racetrack. Johnny turns around and looks at Joe, you believe this guy? He's going to prison tomorrow for 7 or 9 years. He's going to racetrack to bet horses. That was John making fun of that we end up betting horses together that night, laughing, telling stories. That was John, the serious John, and the playful John. So, you know, there's so many stories out of Bergen. So when I see guys out there that took that oath, that do that you know, break that oath, and you got regular guys like me and other guys out there who, you know, who respect them and honor them, they don't, listen, take what you hear from them and just put it aside. I'm going to tell you, these guys, no matter what they did in their life, were good guys. Now, today I also told you I'm going to have a guest. Let me tell you about my guest before I put him on. I'm 63. I'll be 64. I probably know him over 40 years. He met me when I was 22, 23. I first met him, he was around Brooklyn, hanging around Willie Boy Johnson. And we got involved. Listen, we did a lot of stupid things together, played around together, but let me tell you about him. He's like a brother to me. Respect him. Fearless. Fearless. One of the most fearless guys I met. Not afraid of anybody. Did time in a can, all that. And we've always been friends, always ran into each other. And he's gonna tell me, I'm gonna ask him some questions and give you a little insight on what he thinks of John. Now remember, he's not even from that place. He's from somebody else, another crew. But I'm going to tell you the interactions. And his name is Kevin. He's sitting right next to me. I want everybody to talk to my friend Kevin. Say hello to the guy. Say hello, everybody.
Hello, Mark.
So, listen, I brought you on here. You know, you talked about it. And we always talk banter stories back and forth about Johnny. How did you feel about Johnny?
John was a great man. Great man. Had a lot of fun with him.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. And I'll tell you a few things with John. John asked me one time, he says, listen, you got that phone in your car. You got to get rid of that phone. And I said to him, John, but I'm not doing nothing on the phone. So every time I went to the club on Wednesday nights for dinner, sitting with everybody in the front room with John. John was at the front of the table. And I used to take my antenna off the car before I got there so he didn't think I had the phone. About maybe 2-3 months later, he says to me, hey, Kev, what? Can you get me 5 phones? I said, wait a minute. You told me we're going to get pinched with these phones. I said, so I get the phones. So we got the 5 phones. I'm not going to mention the names who we gave them to. I said, but we had them. What did John do? Call an OTB every 5 minutes. Every 5 minutes. And I said, he got the phone bill. He said, wow, it's $1,500 for the bill. Well, because you get incoming calls and the outgoing calls. And then you got to pay in them times. So I turned around, I said to him, well, the phone's doing good, huh? But I still kept that antenna off my car.
Yeah.
Another time, went to the city. He asked me to drive him. I drove him there. and there was a bum on Bowery. So I opened up the door a little bit, and the guy is over there to wipe John's windshield of the car. I roll out of the car. John says, "What'd you do to my friend, my driver?" The guy was so scared he didn't know who it was. But another funny thing about John, in them days we had roll of tokens in the glove compartment. When I took my car, he took all the tokens out and the cologne. So when I got his car, I did the same thing. Yeah. But we had a lot of fun. Another one was on my boat. Peter was really young. I don't even know how old he was, but he was
probably
real young.
5 or 6 years old, probably.
Yeah. Turn around, I remember John telling me, "This is the life. I never had this when I was a kid, and I want to thank you for taking me on the boat." Turned around, Peter had a great day. Now, turns around, John says, "Let's go to Roller Roaster." There was a Dunkin' Donut over there. So he says, "Park over there." He says, "There's no dock there." He says, "That's okay." He says, the guy comes out, "No dock." He says, "Tell him who I am." I told him, "That's John Gotti." The guy says, "Oh, you could park that boat anytime." I says, "Can you wax it for me too?" But that was John. John always was a great man. Great man.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to have affection for him. It's hard not to be enamored by him. I mean, all these guys out there that want to be something wish they were a speckle of him. And listen, he was him, he was, you ain't going to change him. He told me a story, Kev, and I tell this a lot of, I don't tell this a lot, I tell it to a few people. I even tell the guys I know now that are still in the streets, so I can understand that. And he tells a story. He says, listen, he says, and I listen, he said, he's telling a bunch of guys stories. He says, listen, he says, Vincent, the Chin, he says, I respect him. Good man, smart man. I respect Chin 100%. But let me tell you who I am, he says. He says, I'd rather live 10 years the way I want to live than 20 years the way he's at. I don't mean, you could do whatever you want, but that's me. John wanted to be John. And and you never saw any other facade about it. And even the guys around him, like Angelo, him and Angelo like bookends since they were 12 years old. I mean, Angelo's parents had a story. Johnny grew up dirt poor. Angelo's parents had a grocery store, Angelo Ruggiero. And they had what you call little money, but they had a grocery store, Kev. And they had to be 12 years old, 14 years old. And Angelo used to take Johnny home to his house in Brownsville, and he used to hide in the doorway. Don't let my mother see you. So Angelo screamed, "Ma, Ma." And Emma, that was Angelo Ruggerio's name, she says, "Angelo, I want to come up. I want to get something to eat." She says, "That little criminal Johnny Gotti's not with you." "I know he's not here." And Johnny would be hiding in the doorway. This is that bookend. They were bookends. And Angelo would go in and he would grab a meat bone to give to Johnny, and they would take a meat bone. Johnny would tell us, "I take the meat bone." My mother would put in tomato sauce for flavor. But that was their connection all the way back to that young. And there's some episodes with John, Kevin. But also, he is who he is. He took what he wanted and he went for it. I mean, listen, you grew up, you were an orphan, right?
Yes.
You grew up with nothing.
Right, 3 years in the orphanage home, angel guardian.
Yeah, so these guys had nothing too. And they saw things. Remember, your parents, if somebody who had parents, like, they weren't educated. These guys didn't go to Harvard or NYU. They had no shot. Their parents didn't work, or they were laborers. So, I don't fault these guys for realizing a dream. And not every guy had these dreams.
You know why? A lot of people don't realize. When you don't have a family like I did, they were my family.
Exactly. That's why I talk about. See what you're saying?
Right.
I says, when I met John, I started going to the club. I was 19. My father died when I was a kid, 8 years old. I felt like I belonged somewhere. I had guys that loved me because I'm Italian. Listen, I'm not afraid of anybody, but also I'm an intelligent guy, and I felt like I belonged. Gave me a sense of power. I could understand what you too,
Well, to go for a little bit more into that, Nassau County, I was in Nassau County. You only could do 1 year there. I wound up doing 2 years. The judge says to me, "Oh, you like to come out here? I'm going to tell you what. You're going to stay here for 2 years now." Who I met there? I met Danny Fatico. I didn't know who he was. I worked in commissary. I bought him White Owl cigars. And he said, "Wow, me and him really got very close." That's how I got to know everybody then. He said to me, when you come home, why don't you come around? I said, no, I'm with someone else I'm very close to.
So now here's a story I want to tell you. Christian, after I put, I want to hit a story. So we talked in my last lead-in episode about guys who took the oath, and and then flipped, and there's no excuse for that. And there's a lot of guys out there. They talk about them now. They make fun of them. Who's this, that? Who's stupid? Didn't belong there. I mean, who are you to judge somebody who's found their path? I'm not questioning what they did for a living. Found their path, stuck to it, and a lot of them died in prison or in other ways. So I'm going to bring up 3 guys here that I want people to know about. And they will all, listen, Johnny had respect for these 2 guys, and one of them I'm going to throw in there because of the connection to John. There's 2 guys. One of them was, first to start with, there's a guy called Sonny Black. Remember him?
I remember Sonny. Yeah.
There's pictures with John in prison, Sonny Black joking around. Sonny Black, real tough guy. They talk about him with the Donnie Brasco, he went to play. But listen, I want to respect Sonny Black because something happened. They brought in Joseph Pistone, whatever, and he got called in, and he went to his demise, and he knew it. And he went in. I mean, listen, how many guys would run away or go to the feds? This is a guy you have to respect, no matter what he did. He made a mistake. He paid the price. And I heard his famous phrase, you just do it fast, right in the back of the head. Not many guys can even go in. And all these big shots, whatever they are, underboss or bosses, they flip. Or, they're going to take my money away, one boss, so he flips. No excuse. Then there's another guy. I want you to hear this story. He's going to tell a 3-minute story about a guy who was his mentor, right? Now, I asked around. I didn't know him. He was like, but he was, and he's with another family. I asked some guys, real gangster, real tough guy, didn't fool around. So his name, what was his name?
Tony the Gawk.
His nickname was Tony the Gawk. Tony the Gawk was out of Brooklyn. He was your mentor. How old were you?
I was in my 30s then. Turning around with Tony. Tony, I still think about him all the time. He always smoked Avanti cigars, and I smoked them from this day because of him. He was my mentor. He taught me the streets very well. Told me never rat nobody out. Be a man. Turned around, I really loved him. I used to meet him at the barber shop almost every day. He had 3 strands of hair on his head. And I used to say to Jasper, how do you cut this man's hair? I say he flips it over and that's it. Turns around, but I love Tony. Tony loved me. Turned around, anything he asked me to do, I did it. Then we had a club on Utica Avenue. In Utica, we used to go there and play cards. We had upstairs, we had gambling up there. And go back to the barber shop. He meets a guy and turns around. The guy introduced him to an agent. And I didn't know none of this. I was sitting in the back, let him talk his talk. And next minute I know, a couple weeks later, he says to me, he got pinched. He used to tell me all the time, you ever fool with narcotics, I'll plant you and anybody that's around you.
1 second, I want to ask you a question. Was he a made guy or a captain?
Yes, he was. He was a made man, right? In that family. Michael did say some things about him. Michael Francis says some things about him. But I was the last person to be with Tony. He went and told his wife, Claire, Kevin's got a lawyer for me. He says, and I'll call you. He went to the phone booth. I didn't go to the phone booth with him. Went to the diner. He was a nervous wreck. I told him, listen, you're going to beat this case. I know you didn't do this. He says, they'll never make a Valachi out of me. Never make a Valachi.
Hear that statement? They'll never make a Valachi out of him. That's a man's statement.
Banged his hand on that table, that big ring he had on his finger. They'll never make a Valachi out of me. Went to the 5 Towns, right to the phone booth, called his wife, Claire, up, and says, I'm checking out. And he blew his brains out with a .357 Magnum.
That's a man who believed in that honor and that oath. He screwed up. And in that life, like anything else, you see, either you come in and get, something happened to you, or they discuss if you have to be killed. He decided, I got the other way to do it, is kill yourself. He screwed up, and he took the honor for that. That's a man. That's a man you have to respect. No matter what they did for a living, you have to honor a guy like that who believed in an oath, right? You know what I mean?
Sure did.
And I talked to guys, Kev. Tony Gawk. Tony
was a
Gawk was a tough guy. He was a tough guy. So in that story, I want to bring another guy to light because I know him very well. I spent a lot of years with him. I mean, they ran the Continental Poker games that I cut the Continental games. And a lot of people talk bad about him. And I'm sorry, you don't talk bad a guy who took his pinch, went to jail, and they rolled his body out in a box. I'm talking about Pete Gotti, John's brother, the sanitation man. Guys, he shouldn't have been in life. He was dumb. He was this. Pete was a man. I want you to respect the man. So any of these idiots who flipped, who talk badly about him, should shut their mouth, because the guy went out like a man. He believed in that honor. He believed in the honor that his two brothers had, and he went like that. So that's where it bothers me when I see these guys trying to pump themselves up. Listen, I think I tell you again, we're nobody. We're older. Kevin's in his early 70s now, but we're tired of the nonsense. And there's a story a story I want to tell you about. True, another story. We had a crap game. 1982, I think it was. I think it was 82. So they had a crap game. Let me explain something to the club. There was the main club, the Bergen. There was a side club. It wasn't John's office yet. He was still a captain. So we had an apartment upstairs in the building. The butcher owned the building. There was 4 apartments. We had the apartment directly over the club. Right? So, and guys would shack up there. Sometimes Tony Roach would sleep up there because he had nowhere to live. Because Tony had a problem. He had addiction. So, but he was still Tony Roach. So they decided to have a crap game. Now, the partners in this crap game, I was there. I worked it. I know, no matter what anybody says, was Tony Lee and Andy and Johnny and Angelo. They all had this crap game. Oh, everybody got a job there. There was no other family involved or nothing. Right? So,
Tony
show him. I want you to show. Stick up to the camera. Show the ring. Who gave you that ring?
Tony Lee.
Tony Lee gave I'll tell you about Tony Lee. That's the guy in the picture. John grabbing his nose. Great guy. So,
I got to say something. I ran into his brother Mikey in a doctor's office. He says, "Wow, that's a nice ring." I said, "Yeah, gave it to me." He says, "Oh, your brother." My brother never gave me nothing. That's because your brother never liked you.
So let me explain. Let me rectify this crap game thing. So they were partners. So the club was next door. It was like a storage room, and you walked. There was a door locked. There was another door to go to the back room, and then there was an entranceway into the hallway of the apartment upstairs. There was a side door outside. So there was another door, steel door. Then you walked up the stairs, there was another door. There was 4 doors to get into this apartment. So Johnny I think it was Andrew. I said, "Mark, listen." He hands me, now you understand something. I'm still 21 years old. He says, "Listen, Jimmy Butch." Now, Jimmy Butch is a story about the Copa we're going to talk about. You're going to love this story. It was a guy Johnny rescued out of prison, too. Listen, a little flaky guy said that, but a good guy. He had a 1972 Plymouth Valiant or something like that, an old white car or something. It's parked across the street. Here's a 38. It's loaded. Keep it on the front seat with you. You're going to work outside. It was a little cold that night. Sitting in the car. Couldn't run the car. They bring me coffee. He got me a winter jacket. What do you do? So listen, there's somebody going around robbing social clubs. Now, they made a movie about it, no matter how false it was, about that kid and his girlfriend or wife went on sticking up social clubs. So that was at that time. So you stand outside with the gun. You see anybody pull up, and you come out firing. Sure, Ange, whatever you want. That's a stupidity message. Sure, why not? You don't think of it, right? At the front door used to be, they put Tony Roach at the front door. Tony Roach was packing. The next door was Sally Batts. He was around Fat Andy and Tony Lee. Sally was a funny guy, good guy. I like Sally. Did some time, good guy. The next door, up the stairs, was Skinny Dom. It was all set up. So in this crap game, so I'm sitting outside. That night, nothing happens. Nothing happens. All of a sudden, who comes walking the crap game? Vinny Asara. Now, let me explain to you something about Vinny Asara. Vinny Sarah, John had issues with. Listen, let's say Johnny didn't. Vinny Sarah was younger, had problems, whatever. He straightened them out. He calls. He used to say, and I'll be honest about it, Vinny. Vinny got a gift button. You know what I mean? But whatever it is. So Johnny tolerated him because Vinny was a degenerate horse player, and he liked that. But he always let him know that it's. All right, Vin, I know, let's just stay away. No, don't bother me today, Vin. Don't bother me today. So Vinny comes to play dice. They go upstairs, and Vinny gets on a streak. He wins $45,000. I mean, it's not a $3 crap game. Guys are losing. Listen, upstairs, they had their own Shylock, Mark Ryder, another guy, a Jewish guy.
Stand-up guy.
They gave him a prison term, life plus 20. I don't know what the plus 20 is. He died in prison. No, they wouldn't let him walk. It's a Jewish guy, but he was the Shylock. So Vinny comes out, he won 4. So all of a sudden you hear, hey, cocksucker, make sure, this is John, hey, cocksucker, make sure you tip the boys downstairs. And a kid Mark's in there, take care of him. So Vinny comes down, so I'll tip him, and no $100, John says. I want to give the door guys $300, the guy in the car $500. So Vinny says, $500, $300. Says, Vinny, you want to play next time? I won't let you in here. But that was John. I'm not saying Vinny was cheap, but that was John. He wanted to bust his balls. So Vinny comes out and says, hey, Marky, you watch a shotgun, huh? Here's $500. I just want some money. Good luck. And he walks away. But so John, if John had an affinity for you, he'd do anything. He'd go to dinner with you, go have eggs with you, go have an espresso with you, having a martini. You want to see a guy drink martinis? I was there a couple of nights. He could pound them. But what I want your story about is that really, I love the story that you tell. You were around Willie Boy at that time. Gork was gone, right?
Yes. What happened was I inherited Tony Gork's club on Utica Avenue. I knew Willie Boy growing up as a kid and stuff, but I knew his brother, JoJo. And because I came from East New York, from Crescent Street, and that's where all my problems started. But then after that, I got close to Willie at the time. Didn't know that he was what he was doing. I did ask him when I came home, what did you do? And he told me I didn't do nothing.
We did it.
But I know that people come to me.
Paperwork.
But it was very strange because when I did come home, Mark, a lot of guys came to me and approached me. And they know how I feel about a rat. I did all my time. I'm a trial guy, just like John. Let's go to trial. Produce who is the rats, okay? And that's the life I went into at that time, and that's what I believed. I could never get straightened out.
You're half Irish.
I'm half Irish, okay?
I call me Irishman. He's my friend.
Yeah, a lot of people call me that. But you know something? These are great guys that are out there that did time and everything. Some of them, they're still my friends. I'll be honest with you. I love them all. They're, like I said earlier, they're my family.
That's why, Kev, I want you here because I want people to understand it's not just about me. I'm trying to cloud the issue with all them guys who took the oath that became rats and they give you a reason for it. Listen, that's their life. They do what they want, but don't make yourselves into something that you're really not. There's just do your thing. Talk about yourself. Right away, you got to bring clean. Oh, this guy was this guy this did for a living. I don't care what they did for a living. I just want to pay my, these guys should be respected as men of character. They walk their line. There's a lot of them out there. Guys came home doing 30 years. God bless them, man. That's a long time. You know what? Is. And it's guys, when they heard, listen, there's stories. I'll tell you stories. We got more coming up in next episodes. I don't want to get into it now because I want to save it. Listen, I want you guys to subscribe. I need you to subscribe, to hit the like button. The more subscribers and likes I get, the more shows I'll do. It's all it's about. And I'm telling you, if we do it right, we're rebuilding the Bergen. We'll be in the studio. We'll do reenactments. I want you to see this heyday. Kevin knows. Kevin came by for dinners, sometimes on Saturday. I met Kevin when I got sent to Brooklyn. That's another story for 84, 85. I don't want to jump the gun now. Let's go back. I'm staying in 82. And listen, I've been involved with Kevin something. I tell you, not many guys I know that I'm with like me. Somebody comes at him, you go right at him. A lot of guys all talk. that's why I never had a problem going anywhere with Kevin because we know we could take care of our shit. And John was adamant about that. Well, a lot of guys are different. I ran into a lot of guys. Oh, you know who I'm with? You know where I'm from?
Yeah.
Johnny said, listen,
Crack
you
'em.
go out, right?
Crack them.
Yeah, you go out, you be a man. You can't take the pressure, walk away. Anybody says, I'm with so-and-so, I'm saying, what does he say?
Crack 'em.
Crack them. Crack them. Teach them a lesson. That's against the rules.
Tony
They're
was
no
the
good.
same way.
What?
Tony Gork was the same way.
Old school guys.
And I used to tell him, yeah, I just hit this guy. Good.
Good.
Let whoever comes come forward.
Good. That's why no matter, you know what it is, Chris? I'm telling you about us. No matter how many guys I got into a beef with or I cracked, and they said to me, what'd you do in that club? What'd you hit that guy for? Well, he said, I'm with so-and-so. Okay. I was 100% right. I was 100% right. So, there's stories about John, being a tough guy.
Oh,
But
definitely.
degenerate gambling. Oh, listen, I'll tell you. So I'm going to tell you a story. I'll tell you
I got a better one figured out.
Okay. I'm going to tell you a story about this. I don't think you ever heard of it. So I'm by the club, and Johnny says, why don't we all go to the racetrack? I got a tip in the first race. So Johnny says, I got to get there in a hurry. So he says, he wants to drive. He's driving a black Lincoln Town Car. Remember the black Lincoln Town Car with the tire hump in the front? It's me, him, there's 4 guys in the car. I forgot who. And he's driving. Mark, let me drive. I gotta get there. I gotta get to Yonkers right away. I got this tip. It's in the first race. He's rushing. He's got about 10 grand in his pocket. He wants to bet this trotter. I gotta make the first race. Mark, here's 2 grand. As soon as you get it, run it. As soon as we pull the parking lot, valet, you run it to the racetrack, put this bet in. All of a sudden, we hit the Triborough Bridge. There's a traffic jam. I'm telling you, not even slow, standstill. We see lights up ahead. And all lights are blinking. Now, this is John when it came to betting a horse. Sometimes he said things, you shake your head, but then you laugh at the same time. What's this traffic? I'm getting shut out. I got 20 minutes to post. I got to get the first race. And we're going to the cops, and he passed by. It's a traffic accident. 2 cars hit each other. Nobody's hurt, but they got a woman dressed with a nun habit on, laying on the divider in the street, Chris. Laying on the divider. And it's all right. They're patting her up. Yeah, all right. The cop says, come on, man. And Johnny opens says, what the fuck is going on? The cop says, oh, calm down. It's a traffic. The woman got hurt. Johnny says, fuck you and the bitch. I got to get the bet. Fuck you and the bitch and that bearded bastard, he says. Wait. And that bearded bastard upstairs. I got to make this fucking bet. We sat there in the car. Now, you understand something. This is John's spontaneous reaction. Fuck you, the bitch, and the bearded guy upstairs. He says, I got to make this bet. Now, that's his personality. If anybody knows him like I did, like you did, snap, come out like that. We get to Yonkers. He pulls in a valet. Mark, got the money, go. I finally get there, 0 minutes to post. I go to $50 window, give me 2,000 to win on the 4-horse. 2,000 wins, you got it in, good. You see the car coming around with the horses, they break, the horses take off. It was trotters with wheels. John's horse broke stride, went off stride, and went out of the race. He says, that bearded bastard at none, they gave me the Maloikis, he said, they made the heart break. So, and he's laughing. And I forget, somebody said to him, says, yeah, you shouldn't have cursed them guys. Yeah, it was reaction. But they got me. You got me this one. When I get up there, if I ever get lucky, we'll talk. We'll have a conversation about this, he says. But that was John.
Man, that's like when me, John, and Willie Boy went to Meadowlands. And I'm not a gambler. So I figured, all right, I'm there. John and Willie are banging them horses. I think John put $3,000. Willie Boy, or whatever, God knows what you see the tote ball going down. I bet a little $300. I win. They cursed me to no end.
They had abused
you. Son of a gun. You going against me. I said, listen, I didn't tell you what to bet. I bet my horse. You bet your horse. I got so mad at them, I took a cab home. They didn't see me. They all say, where did he go?
That was John. See what you're saying there? Another lead into that. It had to be 81, 82. I forgot what World Series were paying. And back then, the World Series used to be on NBC, and they had daytime games. Remember, not just nighttime games. No cable TV. So we're sitting there, me, Pete, I forgot Tommy or Jim, about 4 or 5 guys. We're watching a World Series game. I'm almost positive it's the Phillies against the Royals. I'm not sure. Whatever. I think it was the Phillies and Royals. I don't know what year it was, 81, 82, or Cardinals and the Royals, whatever. So who comes walking in? Joey Messina. Now at that time, Joe Messina was just a captain of the Bonanno family. Joey was always around John, always came to see John. I'll be honest with you, without John gave him his boost in life. You know what I mean? When he in that family. So Joey comes, hey guys, we watch the World Series, good. Mark, and I forgot it was Jimmy. I'll give you 300 each. Root for the Phillies. Sure, Joe, why not? 300 each, root for the Phillies. We're sitting there rooting the game. The Phillies are scoring a run. All of a sudden, John's office, the door slams open. The club's door, he kicks the door in. Opens the door. All right, which one of you motherfuckers is rooting for the Phillies? And we just went silent because you understand something. John, serious about his bets. So I forgot that he had bet the other side. So we're sitting there rooting. Who's that? Nobody says nothing. Nobody something. And Johnny looks and sees Joe Messina sitting on the couch laughing. Says, you fat cocksucker, he says to me. Would you pay these guys to root? He says, yeah. He says, yeah, to stick it to you. Yeah, good job. They fucking pissed me off. He slammed the door and walked out the door. Joe comes out, gives us 300, and he goes next door to talk to John. This is that from being you're going to hear more stories, but I want you to be subscribed because I'll get more deeper into John, the things, the life they had. Listen, let's be honest. You know, when I hear guys said these guys were in the drug business in the 70s, that's bullshit. I'll tell you a true story. When I found out, it was by happenstance. I don't believe that, but you know what? There's all jealous people who want to talk bad about the guy. You know why? Because he was a special guy. Not perfect. Nobody's perfect, right, Kev?
Nobody.
I mean, listen, we did a lot of things together. Yeah. Where you had your after hours, you had that later on in life. We got involved in some things, me and Kevin. You know what? And I respect him. I respect him. I tell him, we still now, this age, we live about an hour away from each other. We talk a lot. My wife and your girl, they still talk to, we talk to, and it's not about guys now. We don't, but we want you to tell the story. And we got more stories. Kevin has more stories about John, more stories about Willie Boy, things you've seen. Also, I want you to talk about these guys I honor. So remember, the 3 guys I honor. One guy, Sonny Black, who made a mistake and took what he had coming. Tony DeGork, right? Well-respected, tough guy. He made a mistake. He decided to do it himself. And for all them guys who criticized Pete Gotti, nice guy.
That's a shame.
Pete was a great guy. He did a lot of years in prison. They took him out in the box. I want you to pay respect. Instead of talking bad, all the lowlifes talk bad about him, I swear to God, you should suffer for that. You don't talk bad about guys who do their thing just because you didn't.
They were men.
Right?
They were men.
They were men. So, listen, we're regular guys. We're just associates and, and I'll use this, we're associates and jerk-offs, you know what I mean? but you know what I mean? But that's the best way to approach it. But we never did nothing wrong. We did what we were told, and we stood up. And if there was a problem, I'll tell you, we'll have more stories of problems we went and take care of. I want to tease you with that. I don't want to go there right now because I need you to subscribe. The stories will get deeper. And I'm great to be back in the studio. We're going to film more. My man Chris here, I see when I make him smile and laugh, he enjoys the old stories. And it's just, the secret's about the red doors. And the secret's about John Gotti and that life in the 80s. I don't want to talk bad about nobody. I want you to enjoy the people from that era and who they are and who some are still alive, and I respect them. And I just don't want to, this is about John. This is about this icon. He was an icon. That. He was an icon.
May they all rest in peace, too.
Right or wrong, he was an icon. You got to stand where he came from, And these guys were all poor. They grew up with nothing. And they found a road. They took it. They didn't have access to Harvard or, Yale or benefactors. So you know,
We all said we went to college.
well, they went to the wrong college. They went to they went to the library in prisons. You know what I mean? But I can tell you prison stories that John we told. When we talk about, I'm going to tell about prison stories. I'm going to take a break here for a minute or two and gather myself. I'm going to discuss something, me and Kevin, and we'll be back in a second. I'm back with a couple more stories. I have to tell you these stories. They've been burning a hole in my mind, and they've been burning a hole in Kevin's mind too. So I brought Kevin here because I want to see. It's better two guys to confirm it than better me. So so the first story I'm going to talk about is I'm going to tell Kevin a story with Kevin. All right. So back then, when I first started coming around by Brooklyn, '83, I'm going to jump ahead to a year because I want to tell you a story. So there's a guy on the internet talks about a sit down with John over a flea market. Now wait, so I want to talk about that sit down when he came into the club. That guy, I told you, I'm not mentioning names of these people. They don't deserve their names mentioned. That guy said he had to sit down with John over a flea market. And John was smart. He knew he was a tough guy. He knew his reputation. Let me tell you another thing. Another thing that came out of that sit down that everybody in the club that day knew. John turned around to this guy and said to him, what do we do? I'm leaving a name out. You're going to figure it out for yourself. As the story goes, you'll figure it out. What do we do to guys who talk bad about John Gotti? And the guy put his head down and answered it. Ask you again. What do we do to guys who talk bad about John Gotti? He says, we kill them. Right. So the next time somebody talks bad about John Gotti, tell them to watch behind their back. The person got up like a puppy dog, said goodnight, and walked out. Now these are two made guys in that life. I mean,
Two skippers.
Two skippers. But he put him in his place. So I don't know, some guys fantasize about sitting down with John and flip stories around. So that's the story. There was 15 guys there. I know I could find 2 or 3, confirmed that. He said that to him. Of course, he screwed up that guy. He made a comment, oh, fuck John Gotti. Well, nobody gets away with that. I don't care who the fuck you are. That story. So that leads into the sit down. I'm gonna start off the sit down about this flea market. After John got the flea market from him, Kevin and Willie Boy were there. Now let's shoot to Kevin. What was that flea market used for?
All different crazy things and stuff. You know, the guy was a screwball who ran it. He was a real screwball. One time, John says, have you seen that guy? His name was Frank. I'm not going to give the last name. Turns around, I says, no. He says, well, turned around, what do you call it? He's somewhere in Brooklyn. I said, yeah, he's probably in the crazy house. Sure enough, he was in Fort Hamilton in the psycho ward. I go to see him. I said, listen, he said, who are you? He played stupid that he didn't know me. I said, okay. I went over by the oxygen thing. I went to go take the lighter. I said, you and I are both going to go. He's, no, Kevin, don't fool around. Don't fool around. Get in the car. Let's go. John wants to see you. But the guy was a real screwball. But how many times we was told not to drink, not to do this, not to do that. And that person that Mark was talking about, he turned around and tried to claim this. And this guy was a money maker, but like I said, he was a real screwball too. And, I took a liking to him and stuff and doing crazy things in them days to him, abusing him. Because, somebody had to correct him. Did they ever get corrected?
Early 80s, right?
Yeah, it was the early 80s, just before I went away again. And turned around.
Wait, you went away right after that?
Right after that, yeah.
Tell me why you went away with that. It had something to do with the flea market?
No. Oh, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
So
yes.
what
happened
when
was,
John, when we took over, when you really, if John took over that flea market, right?
Yeah, we had a credit card operation, which I did get pinched with, and I'm ready to go. And I had a lawyer, Mike Corio. I said, Mike, no problem. I'm gonna cop out to this. I'm dead in the wood. So turn around, and John happened to talk to Willie. Must have talked to John and told him about my case. Tony Gorka's already gone now. And turns out I go there.
What did they do? What did they do in the? How do you do with credit? You talk about credit card. What was the flea market used for after he was
making them?
making credit cards.
making them.
I mean, I was in there a couple of times. This guy, Frankie, was nuts. I used to shake my head and wonder how you could get involved with this guy. But after that flea market incident, when John supposedly, like the other guy says, he came to the flea market, he lost money on a deal. No, because after that, they were making credit cards by the thousands.
Yeah,
and people all over the city were making money. So for that guy, right, that was that operation.
Yes.
You went away for that. You got arrested for that operation.
I got arrested for that.
But that was so, for the guy who said John lost money, you don't know the story.
No.
You know, you know the story. And that guy who says that, sit down, you know them all well.
That's right.
And how many credit cards you make with the machine? Thousands, right?
Thousands.
They used to get the old blue slips, you know, the carbons, and they used to get the numbers.
$1 a carbon.
They had, it was back then. It was really wild back then. It's like that guy, Catch Me If You Can, with Leonardo DiCaprio was making checks, the blank checks. The system wasn't geared electronically yet, so everything was pretty much standard. Stamps, all that stuff. So it was easy to counterfeit everything, including money, but they counterfeited credit cards. And the credit cards...
Except for the signature part.
Yeah, you couldn't have the signature part, but you had the credit card. So all the guys, they would, instead of them using them, they would sell them. And they had balances on them. And the people could only use them with friends who worked in stores. And then all of a sudden, like everything else, a couple of idiots don't use them in stores. They use them with strangers. Bingo, they get nailed.
Busted.
It's like everything else when it comes to crime or in the streets. After a while, it fans out so much that you can't control it. But that's what that place was. That's where the money was. So if that guy says he lost money, well, maybe he lost money with the flea market, but that wasn't the earn. It was that back room with that machine making them credit cards. Yep. So that's what I'm going to tell you, right, Kevin? That he didn't know that story.
No.
Now, I used to visit. I was shocked. You know, there was raps this high. So, you know, when you talk about John and put him in any story, if you're doing it to pump yourself up, you got a big problem because now you're lying. If you're telling a true story about the situations, now there's stories out there I don't even know. I was that far separated from him. You know, I was an associate. And I'm not going to make up stories about that, him or his brothers or anybody.
For what reason?
Why would I? Is it going to benefit me? I don't want to become anything. I want to tell true stories. It seems to me a lot of guys can't tell true stories. My friend Kevin here, he backed up the flea market story for me. Of course, remember, he was around Tony Gawk. That's the same crowd of people. You know, these guys hung out in the same areas.
Same area.
That's as far as I'm going to go with that. So, you know, before you pump yourself up, think twice. And I'm gonna close this day off with one little thing. Kevin's gonna be back, in and off. We're gonna have stories. We're trying to get that club built. I'm gonna have another guest hopefully down the line. We're gonna tell stories a year. Right now we're in 81, 82. We're gonna get to 83. We're gonna tell them stories, and I want you to come along for the ride. I'm telling you, I'll make you a part of the Bergen Hunt Fish Club. You want to be a member? I'll make you a member. We will. We'll make you a member. You'll hear the dailies when guys hung out. John used to pull up, get his hair cut, maybe go across the street to a coffee shop, have some eggs. I mean, when everybody walked in the club, Nick the Greek, who owned the place, jumped. His daughters who worked there jumped. But when John walked in, the jump was 6 feet higher. And this is before he was a boss. This is the personality. And John was the nicest, sweetest guy, generous. And listen, John played cards with the bricklayers and the cement workers in a club around Richie's club. But I'm going to tell you a funny story about John. You want to hear it? Now, we owned, Johnny's brother Richie Gotti ran our friend's social club. But it's still John's club. So John went there a lot because they had a fireplace. All stone, a fireplace. John loved the fireplace. Man, we used to cook chestnuts on it. We used to drink there. John would drink there with Guido, Guy Down, all the Italian guys. You know what I mean? Just drinking, laugh, joking around. John, they loved him for that. You know, he didn't, as higher he got, he didn't, you know, let them feel any less worth. That was so. One day, it's Christmas had ended. It's probably January, mid-January. So Johnny, there was like an 8-foot live Christmas tree. It was ready to be thrown out. You know when the bristles fall off when you touch it? Johnny goes there. It's cold out. It's about 15 degrees. He comes in from the city. He went to dinner. He wants to hang out, have a couple cocktails, and just bullshit. Maybe John loved that. Loved to talk with his, the guys he was. All of a sudden, no firewood. There's no firewood. His brother Richie didn't buy any firewood. See, my brother ain't got no fucking firewood. Go downstairs. He tells the bartender in the basement there was cords of firewood. Make sure my brother had the firewood. Go downstairs to the basement. The guy working by the counter, Joe Pineapple's the old man. But Mr. John, there's no wood. My brother, that cheap bastard, didn't buy any firewood. So, all right, I'm going to teach him a freaking lesson. While the fire was burning you ever seen the Dora logs burning? Johnny wanted a nice, healthy fire. Johnny took the Christmas tree. There's a 7-foot, 8-foot Christmas tree. Took it. We'll watch it. Move out of the way, everybody. Took the Christmas tree, and he stuffed it into the fireplace up the chimney. And as the fire went out like it was gasoline. We went outside. Now you're talking about a 3-story building. The chimney was probably 10 feet over the building. There was a flame coming out of the brick chimney. It was like a rocket ship. Johnny just singed the whole... I'll teach my brother a lesson. The tree burnt in about 5 minutes. Johnny was pissed off. I mean, it was gone. Charcoal. All of a sudden, Johnny takes 2 wooden chairs. He's stepping on them. He's cracking them. He's throwing the legs into the fireplace. Yeah. He's sitting there. We sit with the fire. I'll teach my brother a lesson. The next day, I had to be like 10 o'clock in the morning. There used to be a bookmaker in the club, Patty the bookmaker, the old man, like 90 years old. I go in to put my horse bets in. I see Richie Gotti. He says, "You were here last night?" He says, "Yeah." My brother had a fucking tantrum, huh? I said, "Why?" So besides burning the tree, burned 3 wooden chairs on me. I says, "Yeah, he was pissed off he had no wood. I ordered it. The guy never picked it up." "Yeah, all right. Yeah, you ordered it." Yeah. He says, "Why, you want me, you say something to him?" I said, "Yeah, you fucking money could have burnt the whole fucking joint for all I care." He says, but that was Johnny, as his own brother. And it was hilarious. You're talking about an act of craziness with hilarity attached to it. So you're going to hear more stories about this unique person.
About Richie's club. I had another issue that I was barred from Richie's club because Willie Boy and Angelo were playing on the Joker poker machine, and they lost all their money.
Lost their money.
I go and get a roller quarters and put it in. I hit the royal flush.
That's it.
Done. That was it. I was done. You're never allowed in here anymore.
But that was the characters. Now, listen, just because you think, John Gotti is a boss of Gambino, allegedly killed Paul Castellano, it was a tough guy, was fearless. Yeah, but you know what? If that was 10% or 20% of the man, you're forgetting about the 80% that made him that 20%, and the 80% or 90% of them that made dozens. I'm telling you, dozens of people follow him, come to see him.
He was an underdog.
From Jersey, from everywhere. The attraction was magnetic. It was really something else. And you subscribe, please subscribe. I'm going to make another show coming up in a couple of days. I'm going to make Christians back in action with me. We're going to make a couple of those shows. We're going to have more stories. I'm going to move up at 1983, 94. But I want you to subscribe, be a member of the Bergen Hunter Fish Club. I promise you won't regret it. And soon, you're going to see the Bergen Hunter Fish Club reenacted. And you're going to really get in on this. And you're going to become a member of it. God bless. Take care, guys. Kevin, yes, pleasure. Thanks, my man. Thanks. Love you. You know what I mean? Kevin will be back. Intermittently. You got a lot of stories. You want to feed you a little bit at a time. If we have somebody else, all these guys are all street guys. No rats, no witness protection. We want you to see the truth. We have nothing to gain. We're just tired of the nonsense. So come back to Secrets Behind the Red Doors. I promise you, you'll want more. Take care. Bye.